I want to thank everybody coming out today to the soapbox here at the Iowa State Fair, and I want to thank the Des Moines Register for the third time now giving me an opportunity to speak with all of you here today. As they stated before, my name is Bryan Jack Holder, and I'm the Libertarian Party candidate for Iowa's 3rd Congressional District. This is the third time that I've run for this public office. I ran in 2014 as an independent Liberty candidate, and 2 years ago I was the Libertarian Party candidate for this seat. But we were not an official party under state law at the time, and thanks to Gary Johnson's efforts here in Iowa, the Libertarian Party is now Iowa's 3rd major party. So it's been wonderful. We had a primary this spring. We had a contested governor's race. And the media has just been so wonderful to us, interviewing us, allowing us to participate in forums and debates. And it's finally good to be at the adults' table in the political discussion. We're not at it's not Christmas anymore where we're sitting at the little kids' table. So this is great. As they stated before, there are 4 candidates running for this seat. And I'm going to tell everybody, my friend David Young is the Republican Party candidate. So if you see David's signs out in the southwest Iowa in Des Moines, this is what David's sign looks like. My friend Cindy Axney is running also, and this is her campaign sign, so you'll see lots of those out around the district. And my old friend Joe Grandinet, he's going to speak here at 1 o'clock today after me. I met Joe 4 years ago when I was a registered Republican, and him and I have a great relationship. You know, we share a lot of things in common. So, and finally, my sign. So you won't see these plastered all over the district because I'm just a one-man campaign. I'm part of the Libertarian Party, but you know, I've decided when I got involved in politics that I didn't want to ask people for campaign contributions because I wanted to be an advocate for everybody, and I didn't want to have anyone question my motives. So there's one campaign sign that I printed 4 years ago, and I put it in front of my house. And in 2014, I received 1.5% of the vote. I spent about $200 to run for Congress. And then 2 years ago, I put my sign up again, and I received nearly 4% of the vote, which I was quite shocked that there were 15,000 people that cast a vote for my candidacy on Election Day. And I appreciate every one of them. So, you know, since I got involved in politics, I've learned so much about our government and the way it functions and the way it works and the way it oftentimes doesn't work. You know, I try not to be somebody that is adversarial when he's out there talking with people, campaigning. I try to be on a great basis with Congressman Young. I want to get to know Cindy. And I would love it if the 4 of us could participate in forums together and discuss things because, you know, we're all Iowa citizens, we're all Americans, and I believe that we all have the right to participate in the democratic process of self-government. Back in May, about a week before the primary, I went into Congressman Young's office in Council Bluffs. And David has an office in Council Bluffs. He's got another one in Creston, and he's got one here in Des Moines and then one in Washington. But I went into his Council Bluffs office just to say hello. And David was so kind after our conversation. He sent me a personal letter, handwritten letter in the mail, and I'm gonna read that for all of you today because, you know, I follow David on Facebook, and I feel bad that oftentimes people are harsh with their words and their criticism, and I don't think some of that is very fair. So, and this is from Congressman David Young, dated May 29th, 2018, and he says, "Bryan, thank you for stopping by the office to talk. I appreciate your love of America and her history. We all must do our part to keep this great republic going for future generations. Thanks for doing your part. God bless, David. Well, I want to return the favor and thank David for representing us to the best of his ability over the last 4 years. So it's probably one of the toughest jobs in the world. And, you know, he goes away to Washington, and it's tough there. It's a tough city. That's why some people now call it the swamp, that, you know, there's so many influences on our elected officials, and it's difficult to do that job. So. And what I discovered 4 years ago, and why the job is so difficult, is that these constituencies have grown over the years to now our district here in the 3rd Congressional District contains 760,000 constituents. That's almost over 750,000 people that David is tasked with making decisions for in Congress. He's the voice for 760,000 people. But, you know, it wasn't always that way in this country. 150 years ago, Iowa had 11 Congress people at one point, 11. And now we're down to 4, and we may lose another congressional seat in 2 years. And I would hate to see that happen, but I think that there's a way to have a more representative government. And what I call it is the Iowa Compromise. So, in 1911, when Congress capped the size of the U.S. House at 435 members, there were 92 million Americans, 92 million of us. Now in 2018, there are 320 million Americans, and we still have 435 representatives. So basically, the representatives we have now are the same number of representatives that my grandparents and great-grandparents had when they came to this country. So I propose that at some point, very soon, that we start dividing these congressional districts into smaller constituencies. As I said before, Iowa once had 11 congressional districts. We now have 4. And every 10 years, the population of America and those seats, the population is counted in the census, and the seats are reapportioned according to population. So as the population of Iowa decreases, other states are getting more representatives and more voices in our government, and that affects our daily lives, the policy changes that come about. And this is what the founders told us. They told us that taxation without representation is tyranny, that they did not think that the king and parliament 3,000 miles away across the Atlantic Ocean had the authority to dictate the rules and the laws that these Americans were going to live under. So I propose dividing the congressional districts into smaller constituencies. I'm not sure exactly what the size of a constituency should be, but I believe this is an issue that is of urgent need, needs to be discussed. You know, I don't want to see us become like a state like Wyoming or Montana, where their U.S. representative has to travel across the entire state to campaign. And it totally inverts the way our government was designed when the state of Montana and Wyoming have 2 U.S. senators and only 1 U.S. representative. Now I'm going to get to the business part of the speech here, and I received an email from Barbara Rodriguez at the Des Moines Register asking me some questions to answer, and they've got a survey, online survey they'd like me to answer, and I will answer that, but I'd like to answer it here for all of you. I think that transparency in our government is the best thing, and with the internet, we can all be transparent now. So the first question is, will the federal tax cuts approved in 2017 help or hurt the 3rd District? And the choices are help somewhat, hurt somewhat, or hurt. You know, that's difficult for just one individual to answer that question on whether these tax cuts are going to help or hurt. Because the way the tax code is designed, it's designed to divide people up according to their incomes and their businesses and their callings and their jobs. So for some people, it will hurt them. For others, it will help. So what will I do as a member of Congress to slow rural depopulation and improve economic development in the 3rd District? Well, part of the problem is there's so many jobs that have been sent overseas, and this ties into the next question about NAFTA, that corporations can make a larger profit by sending jobs to other countries where they don't have to face the regulatory and tax environment that they do here. So I believe that any tax policy, any regulatory policy should benefit Americans first, as opposed to benefiting people in other countries. So, do you trust the Trump administration to set tariffs and direct international trade policies that benefit the 3rd District? Since I got involved in politics 5 years ago, my amount of trust is slipping away because I see so many of these people in elected office that refuse to sort of do what I've done and hold themselves accountable. Most of the time they have meetings with constituents, with constituent groups, with lobbyists, and they don't record the meetings, they don't write up a report of what they discussed, and they don't have to even type up maybe a one-page paper about why they're going to vote a certain way on a certain issue. So, do I support single-payer universal health care? In a perfect world, we would all have things provided for. But right now, we don't even have a free market when it comes to health care. In the state of Iowa, I believe our last lone individual health insurance provider left the market because it was so cost prohibitive and enough people couldn't pay the fees to receive health insurance. So I would like to see a return to free markets, to get away from monopolistic policies where the corporations and the lobbyists pay to basically get special treatment under the law, because it puts all the small people at a disadvantage. I'm going to skip a couple questions here. I'm going to go to number 12. Would you support a law requiring background checks to be conducted on all firearms purchases, including person-to-person sales at gun shows? Well, right now, under the laws of the state of Iowa, it is illegal for a person to sell a handgun to another citizen without first ensuring that that citizen has the right to purchase that handgun. So that's already the way the law is written. People are always going to find ways to skirt the law when it comes to weapons. People will steal them or construct their own. Would you support reinstating the federal assault weapons ban in place from 1994 to 2004, or a similar ban on the sale or possession of certain military-style semi-automatic weapons? You know, on this one, I would not support a return to that policy, because obviously it's shown that it hasn't worked. You know, people are going to get weapons, they're going to misuse them, they're going to abuse them, just like they misuse drugs and alcohol. People misuse vehicles. So, and as someone, I will admit here, I am a gun owner. I do have a permit to carry, and I've been exercising this right to defend myself and defend others and my family for nearly 20 years. And I've never run afoul of the law. But as a gun owner with a permit to carry, you have to almost have a law degree to know where you can carry legally and where you can't. And inside the state fair here is a place where I am not legally entitled to defend myself according to state law. So, yet I carried in 3 video cameras and 150 pounds of equipment, and no one asked me a question. So, you know, I don't think that banning semi-automatic weapons makes us safer. What will make us safer is that more of us get involved with friends and family that are going through a mental health crisis, for people that are depressed and don't see a way out of their problems. I think that would be a better use of our resources. So, do I support allowing more teachers and school staff to be armed? You know, I would not mandate that any teachers have to carry a weapon to defend their students in school. But if they want to voluntarily do that and receive the proper training, I don't see where that would run afoul of the law and our Constitution. What is my personal relationship with firearms? You know, I've been a gun owner most of my adult life, and I had to use a handgun to defend my home in 2003 from a home invasion. Two guys tried to break into my family business, home-based photography studio at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I fired a couple of warning shots in the air because I didn't know who was out there. They drove off, but it took the deputy sheriffs an hour to arrive at my house. So there's a lot of things that can happen, a lot of bad things that can happen in that amount of time period. In terms of immigration policy, you know, we do have a nation state. We do have defined borders. We've got an immigration process. And I think it's sad that people have to break the law to come here to escape tyranny and poverty in the third world.
On the grounds. Attention on the grounds. With Dina Heron, report to the public safety building. Thank you.
You know, and it's sad that these workers that come here that work in some of the agricultural industries, they're oftentimes abused by management. They're taken advantage of. And, you know, I don't want to see people sent back to countries where they're going to face legal repercussions and be harmed. So I believe more of us that are citizens and stakeholders need to get involved and attend public meetings and ask questions of our elected representatives, because, you know, the Constitution says at the top, we the people. You know, it's our government, and we need to get involved. And I'm trying to demonstrate to everyone out here that you don't have to put on a tricorner Liberty hat or put on a flag shirt, but if you want to run for office in Iowa, this is the place to do it. To run for Congress with no party, you need 375 signatures. So to run for State House, you only need 50 signatures. To run for the State Senate, you only need 100 signatures. So if there's a place where democracy exists in this country, it's here in Iowa. So, how's my time? 1 minute, okay. All right, well, I'm just going to wrap up here. And I'm going to leave you with one short final quote, and it's by Justice Louis Brandeis, who was one of the most brilliant jurists to ever serve on the United States Supreme Court. And he said that the most important political office is that of the private citizen. And myself and everyone here today is living proof to that statement. Thank you for coming out today to the soapbox here at the State Fair. My name's Bryan Jack Holder. My YouTube channel is Bryan Jack Holder. My Facebook page is Bryan Jack Holder. And if anyone wants to speak with me after I get off the stage, I would be happy to talk with you. Thank you. Thank you.